At this moment in time, the most reliable cars in the world, the top 10, are all Japanese manufactured vehicles. The Honda is no exception. That features quite highly in that list. So that kind of speaks volumes, I think, really. Now let's start with the basics. The instrument cluster here: speedo dials, rev dial, petrol thermometer, temperature. None of them are obstructed by the steering wheel in any shape or form whatsoever. That's actually quite rare in vehicles these days. 0 to 60 test, go. Now the wing mirrors are very narrow, but they're long, and their length makes up for that narrow part. So the vision's actually quite good, and they've got a healthy blind spots part of the mirror too, which is very useful, because every vehicle has a blind spot, as you probably know. The rear view vision's not bad. The headrests don't really obstruct the view at all, so that's a good one. Center console is quite stylish. Buttons are all laid out nice and simply. The dashboard is a bit plasticky, but it doesn't feel that bad actually. Normally the Japanese cars are a bit cheesy and tacky on the inside, particularly the Nissans. But this one does feel a bit better, I must admit. It looks a bit better too. If anything, it feels a bit digital watch-ish, but I suppose that's hardly surprising coming from Japan. Now the ride itself is exceptionally smooth. There's no real noise coming from the car at all, except for the noise of the wheels rolling down the road. I am aware of noise underneath the car, not a mechanical noise so much. So maybe there could be a bit more soundproofing on the floor pan. But as for the engine, well, I can't even hear it. If I kick down, then there's a bit of a racket, but it's not a big engine vehicle. The small engines do have to make a bit of a noise to get going, and it's certainly not excessive. The steering is very responsive actually. I'm really quite impressed with it. I do feel like I'm connecting to the road a little bit. It's more of a road connection than a power steering connection. And the power steering is actually quite a nice balance. I find with some vehicles the power steering can be just too much, so you just basically feeling the power steering and you don't want to feel completely anaesthetized on the whole road. The driving position is very good too. This is a very comfortable car, and all in all I'm really quite impressed with how the car sticks to the road. It floats along effortlessly. The gear track, once you get used to the gearbox and you're not so aggressive with it and you allow the car to develop speed more on a gradual basis, the transition can actually be very nice, and you can actually find yourself driving down the road with barely any noise coming from the engine. It's only when you try and kick down or drive fast that you start to get a lot of noise coming from the engine, which is a bit distracting. Do you know, the steering, I'd have to say, is a little bit stiff. I don't know whether this is because it's 30,000-40,000 miles. I mean, it's not an old car. Let's give it a bit of a wobble. No, it's quite firm too, I must say. It's quite a solid little feel to this car. I don't know, it's a difficult one to review. I get to drive a lot of cars. I think the only thing I can say about this vehicle is that as I drive down the road, I don't feel like I don't feel like the car's enjoyable to drive. It feels a bit plastic, and I don't mean plastic in the material sense. I mean plastic as in I don't really feel it's connecting with my senses. It's almost it's almost like sitting at a computer desk playing a driving game. It feels exactly the same. I can't feel the road. I can't hear the other traffic. I'm not connecting with my environment at all. I feel like I'm in a plastic bubble, and it doesn't seem to have a harmony that I would have associated with Honda. it's almost a bit too efficient. The only other cars I can think of that are like that are the top range Mercedes saloons and some of the Jaguars. There's so much power steering, there's so much electrical contribution to the driving that as you drive down the road you almost feel like you're not in a car, you feel like you're in an air bubble. So I get the same sort of thing with this car. I would say to anybody who's thinking about buying one of these cars, look, you're going to get an immensely reliable car. That's been proven over and over again. But if you want a car which is a driver's car and you're an enthusiastic driver, then really at the end of the day, this is not the car for you.